And just like that, we have a series. There's a saying that I always hear thrown around every playoffs. It's that the series doesn't start until someone wins on the road. And well, here we are. The Miami Heat have exceeded a lot of people's expectations and split the first 2 games on Denver's home floor. I would say that it was sort of surprising, but I'm just gonna be completely honest. Nothing that this Miami Heat team does at this point surprises me anymore because it seems like they've done everything possible in this playoff run. And the way that they won Game 2 has been enough for people to believe they have a legitimate chance in the series. We'll start with the adjustments because they made some changes to their starting lineup after Game 1. That's because in Game 1, it was painfully obvious that they were way too small. They were getting bullied by everybody. They were getting bullied by Jokic, which you expected to happen, but they were getting bullied by Aaron Gordon because they had started Caleb Martin on him, and he was just getting whatever he wanted. And they were getting bullied by Michael Porter Jr. because he was just shooting over everybody because his release point is 13 feet in the air. And so the adjustment they made was to start Kevin Love in place of Caleb Martin to help them with their size issues in their matchups. Now, admittedly, I did not think that this would work. And Kevin Love, to put it lightly, is not the first thing that comes to mind when you hear defense, but I will say that he started out the game playing some great defense. He had a couple nice possessions early on in the game, which kind of set the tone, which included getting a block and taking a charge, and from there, the game of runs started. Miami started out with a double-digit lead early in the first quarter before giving up a huge run to the Denver Nuggets, at which point we all thought it was over. Because the way that this Nuggets team plays is just, they very rarely do anything wrong, especially when they're clicking like that. And the fact that even with that big run and that great start that Miami had, they were still down at halftime. So we pretty much just looked at that and said, okay, this is it. This is the end of the series. They just don't have the personnel to deal with this team. Well, the Miami Heat once again found a way to prove us wrong. Because yes, even though Nikola Jokic was able to just bully any player that Miami put on him, they also did a really good job of shutting down everybody else, or at least making sure that they didn't have the same production from Game 1. Jamal Murray had 10 points until the fourth quarter. Michael Porter Jr. shot 2 for 8, had 5 points, which was a drop from his 14 that he had in Game 1. Even though Aaron Gordon had 12 points and shot 5 for 7, it didn't seem like he had as many opportunities to score as he did in Game 1 when people like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin were guarding him for majority of the game. But of course, like I said before, Nikola Jokic just absolutely had his way with anybody that they put on him, especially when he would get mismatches in the post. Like there were a couple times when Gabe Vincent got switched onto him or some smaller player would get switched onto him. At this point, you might as well just consider Cody Zeller being on him a mismatch because he is not doing anything in this series to stop him. Like, I don't think that he'll be seeing the floor again this series because he was not doing anything, and it's not really his fault. It's just Nikola Jokic is just that great. But the interesting thing about him is that he only had 4 assists. And if you know anything about Nikola Jokic's production, you know that 4 assists for him is like, that just doesn't happen. It was sort of a mix of just him looking to score more, combined with Miami being able to guard Denver's actions a lot better. And it seems like that's been sort of the blueprint for this Nuggets team the entire playoffs. This playoffs, whenever Nikola Jokic scores over 40 points, the Denver Nuggets are 0-3 in those games. And so when you look at that, it's very obvious what they're trying to do. Jokic is one of those like 10 or 12 players in the league where you're not going to stop them no matter what you do. And so why even bother trying to stop him when you could just slow down everybody else? And that's the approach that Miami is seeming to be taking. And of course, it did work out this game. But it wasn't all defense that won Miami the game. Gabe Vincent had 23 points, shot 8 for 12. Max Strus had a nice bounce back game after a goose egg in Game 1, shooting 0 for 10. He shot 4 for 10 today, had 14 points. Bam Adebayo had another great game, 21 points, 9 rebounds. It seems like he's been able to get to his fadeaway mid-range a lot more in this series, which is kind of odd to me, but that's the reality of the situation. He had a great fourth quarter. They started out playing through him a lot more in the fourth quarter, where they're running actions with him out on top. They got a bunch of open looks off of those types of actions. They got the Duncan Robinson backdoor cut again. They have been, like, Duncan Robinson has been cooking in backdoor cuts the entire playoffs, and it doesn't make any sense. General wisdom just tells you that Duncan Robinson is not doing that. And yet he's been doing it the entire playoffs. He's been cooking with backdoor cuts. He's been cooking off the dribble, just getting to the rim. And it doesn't make any sense. And even in addition to that, they used him even more. They started running pick and roll with him to try to get him in the short roll so that he could either finish or make a pass out of there or something along those lines, and it was really working out great. They tried to do it. It got to a point where they were doing it literally every single play, sometimes multiple times a play if they didn't like the first roll. But I mean, hey, if it works, then why fix it, you know? But Jimmy Butler, I have no idea what to make of him at this point, because you'll look at the stat sheet and you'll say he shot 7 of 19, had 21 points. He had a mid game, but a lot of his production came in the fourth quarter. It was another one of those games where he was shooting terribly and we thought, oh man, we're on our way to another Jimmy Butler disaster class in terms of field goal percentage. And then he comes out in the fourth quarter and hits 3 clutch shots to give Miami the edge at the end of the game. Like, there have been so many times this playoffs where he's just done all the right things at the right time. And then in addition to that, you have the fact that he was guarding Jamal Murray a lot more in this game, which in turn led to lower production from him up until the fourth quarter. And about that, this fourth quarter was insane. It started out with Duncan Robinson scoring 8 straight points to start the quarter, which also helped Miami build the lead. And then you had another adjustment that Miami made in the game, and that was the decision to play zone against the Denver Nuggets. And basically what this did was it essentially took away the Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic pick and roll. As you can see here on these plays, they can't do anything in the pick and roll because they are just getting blitzed every single play. It did a great job of taking Jamal Murray out of the game and also just forcing others to play make. Really, the only offense that the Denver Nuggets could get throughout this stretch was just getting Nikola Jokic on a mismatch and finding a way to get the ball to him down low. Even then, they couldn't really do that as much as they were doing it the rest of the game, especially in the third quarter. But after a few minutes, they did eventually sort of figure out how to play it, and that's when Jamal Murray happens. He hit 2 clutch threes in the last 3 minutes and almost hit the game-tying shot at the buzzer, which was an extremely tough shot. So I'm hoping that there will be no slander about this shot because that wouldn't make sense at all. You have this series, which is now tied 1-1 going back to Miami. And I think that it's becoming more and more likely at this point that this series might go back to game 5 tied at 2-2. I can very much see them splitting the games once again in Miami, because Miami has now proven that they are good enough to beat this team. Even though Denver made some key mistakes down the stretch, key turnovers by Nikola Jokic mainly, even with all that, Miami still put together a great fourth quarter, came back from a double-digit lead, and sort of slowed down an offense that has looked unbeatable the entire playoffs. And so, we will see what happens when we get to Miami, because like I said before, the series has started. But with all that being said, I want to know what you guys think. What kind of adjustments do you think are going to be made in game 3 and really beyond? And who do you have winning the series? Let me know what you think. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, comment down below what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.